Welcome to Guide to Reads. Tired of sex advice that feels more like a performance manual than a path to connection? Wish intimacy felt authentic, free, and fulfilling instead of scripted and self-conscious? You're in the right place. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more honest conversations about love, relationships, and the wisdom hidden in books. Today we're diving into Sexual Intelligence by Marty Klein, a renowned sex therapist who challenges the myths we've been sold about sex and reveals what truly makes intimacy meaningful. Spoiler alert, it's not about perfecting techniques or chasing ideals. It's about understanding yourself and your partner on a deeper level. Let's set the scene. You light the candles, cue the music, maybe even rehearse a few expert tips you've read or heard. But instead of feeling liberated, you're caught in a loop of self-doubt. You wonder, am I doing this right? Does my body look okay? Is my partner secretly bored? What was supposed to be a moment of connection turns into a mental checklist of insecurities. Sound familiar? You're not alone. Despite the endless stream of advice from books, podcasts, and pop culture, sex often feels like a performance rather than an experience. We chase confidence by memorizing moves, comparing ourselves to unattainable ideals, or trying to live up to someone else's definition of great sex. But here's the truth Marty Klein wants us to hear. Better sex isn't about trying harder, it's about thinking differently. In Sexual Intelligence, Klein offers a radical yet refreshingly grounded perspective. The key to fulfilling intimacy isn't found in mastering techniques or achieving perfection. It's about shifting the focus from what sex should look like to what sex actually feels like, emotionally, physically, and relationally. This book invites us to let go of the rules, release the shame, and embrace the present moment. It's not about performing, it's about connecting. It's not about comparison, it's about authenticity. And it's not about chasing an ideal, it's about discovering what intimacy means to you. So, are you ready to rethink everything you thought you knew about sex? To trade pressure for pleasure, self-consciousness for self-awareness, and performance for presence? Let's dive into the wisdom of sexual intelligence and uncover the simple recipe for better sex. One rooted in honesty, connection, and freedom. Stay tuned, and let's get started. 1. Normality is overrated when it comes to sex. Normality is overrated when it comes to sex. Let's be honest. How many of us have wondered if our sex lives are normal? Questions like, is once a month enough? Or, is it weird that I like this? Often come up in therapy sessions not because we're looking for hard facts, but because we're seeking reassurance. Beneath these questions lies a deeper fear, the fear of not measuring up. But here's the truth Marty Klein wants us to understand. The idea of normal when it comes to sex is a myth. It's a construct built on statistics that don't reflect the complexity of anyone's unique experience. And worse, it creates more pressure than it solves. Think about it. Trying to match some imagined sexual average, how often, how long, how intense, turns intimacy into a math problem. But sex isn't about numbers. What really matters is how it feels. Do you feel safe? Do you feel free? Are you present in the moment? Can you express what you like without fear or shame? Do you feel close to your partner? These are the questions that matter, yet they're often drowned out by the noise of comparison and performance. We worry about how many times we've had sex or whether we're turned on by the right things. But numbers and norms can't measure connection. They can't tell you if you're truly enjoying yourself or if you're emotionally aligned with your partner. And here's the kicker. Focusing on performance or comparison actually blocks connection. When we feel disconnected, our instinct is often to fix our sex lives by memorizing tips, trying new techniques, or following routines. But most traditional advice misses the mark. It's designed to make you act more normal, not to help you understand yourself better. It rarely asks the deeper questions. What kind of sex do you actually like? What builds trust for you? How do you talk honestly about your needs and limits? This is where sexual intelligence comes in. It's not about doing more or doing better. It's about understanding yourself. It's about tuning into your inner world, your emotions, your desires, your fears, and your blocks. It's about shifting the question from, what should I be doing, to, what actually feels right for me. Sexual intelligence invites you to be curious about what turns you on, not what's supposed to turn you on, but what genuinely excites you. It asks what helps you feel safe enough to let go, to be vulnerable, to be real. And it encourages you to share those truths with your partner, creating a space of honesty, presence, and acceptance. When you embrace this way of thinking, the pressure melts away. You don't have to live up to anyone else's idea of sex, not your friends, not your partners, not society's. You just have to be authentic. You just have to be you. So, let go of the numbers. Stop chasing normal. Start chasing authenticity. Ask yourself, what brings me closer to myself? What helps me feel close to someone else? Because that's where real intimacy begins. Not in comparison, but in connection. And that's the secret to a satisfying, anxiety-free sex life. Being present, being honest, and being true to yourself. 2. The skills you need for enjoyable sex aren't specifically sexual. The skills you need for enjoyable sex aren't specifically sexual. Picture this. You wake up in a foreign city with no plan, no map, and only a few words of the local language. You'd need more than just facts to navigate. You'd need adaptability, creativity, emotional balance, and curiosity. That's what intelligence looks like in action. And here's the surprising part. The same principle applies to sex. Great sex isn't about flawless execution or memorizing the hottest tricks. It's about how you respond when things don't go as planned. When someone loses their erection, when someone needs to pause, or when the mood takes an unexpected turn. It's about flexibility, communication, and yes, even a sense of humor. This is the essence of sexual intelligence, the emotional and relational skills that allow intimacy to thrive, even when the conditions aren't perfect. Many people believe that sexual confidence comes from having a youthful body, mastering secret techniques, or being highly skilled. But those things don't sustain desire or build meaningful connection. What truly matters is something deeper: self-awareness, empathy, emotional maturity, and the ability to navigate awkward or imperfect moments with kindness and honesty. Sexual intelligence is about understanding your own body and your partner's, not just in a mechanical sense, but in a way that honors the reality of change. Bodies evolve. Preferences shift. Back pain, hormonal changes, or stress can affect desire and comfort. Sexual intelligence means recognizing these changes and adapting with care. It's about realizing that touch, communication, and pacing matter far more than performance. True sexual satisfaction doesn't come from perfection. It comes from emotional readiness. It's the ability to be open, present, and responsive. It's about asking for what you need, expressing when something isn't working, and staying connected even when things get messy. These emotional skills are the foundation of fulfilling intimacy. They're the fuel that powers connection, just as gasoline, not dollar bills, powers a car. And here's the deeper truth. Most people don't want sex to be just about physical pleasure. They want connection, meaning, and closeness. These experiences require trust, boundaries, curiosity, and presence. None of that comes from chasing what's normal or trying to impress. It comes from showing up as your real, authentic self. When you let go of the pressure to be perfect, you open the door to a more relaxed and joyful relationship with sex. Sexual intelligence isn't about knowing it all. It's about being willing to keep learning, to stay curious, and to be emotionally available. So, the next time you think about what makes sex enjoyable, remember this. It's not about flawless execution or following a script. It's about connection. It's about being present. And it's about embracing the messy, imperfect, and beautifully human moments that make intimacy real. That's what creates sex that feels good. Not just physically, but emotionally and relationally too. 3. If you want to have better sex, stop obsessing over intercourse. If you want better sex, stop obsessing over intercourse. Here's a question worth asking. Why do so many of us equate real sex with penis and vagina intercourse? This narrow definition turns intimacy into a rigid checklist rather than an open exploration. It creates pressure, fuels performance anxiety, and distracts from what truly matters: genuine pleasure and connection. Worse, it limits how we define success in the bedroom, leaving little room for creativity or authenticity. Intercourse, while meaningful for some, isn't the most reliable or enjoyable option for everyone. It requires an erection, carries the risk of pregnancy, and often doesn't align with how most women experience pleasure. For some, it can even become uncomfortable or painful with age. Yet many people feel that anything less than intercourse is somehow less than, a warm-up, a fallback, or something that doesn't fully count. This mindset creates a rigid hierarchy of sexual acts, with intercourse sitting at the top as the ultimate goal. But this hierarchy doesn't serve us. It pushes people to chase a specific outcome rather than enjoy the moment. It turns sex into a performance rather than an experience. But what if we let go of this hierarchy? What if we stopped assuming that every sexual encounter needs to end in intercourse? When we do, something magical happens. Sex becomes more freeing, more playful, and often more satisfying. Pleasure shifts from being about completion to being about exploration. Think about it. Activities like oral sex, mutual touch, or even a long sensual massage can be just as intimate and fulfilling as intercourse. Sometimes even more so. They don't have to be a means to an end. They can be the experience. This isn't just about changing behaviors. It's about rethinking the way we approach intimacy. Many people unconsciously rank sexual acts, placing intercourse at the top, followed by other genital contact, then masturbation, and finally non-genital touch. This ranking system creates unnecessary anxiety and self-judgment. It makes people feel like certain experiences don't count or aren't valid, and it pressures them to engage in activities they may not even enjoy simply because those activities seem more legitimate. This mindset can also create tension between partners, especially if they don't share the same emotional or symbolic views of certain acts. But here's the truth. Sex is personal. What matters isn't where an activity lands on some imaginary ladder. It's whether it brings you pleasure and connection. There's no universal formula for what sex should look like. You might prefer something simple and affectionate over something intense and technical, and that's perfectly okay. When we let go of sexual hierarchies, we reduce shame, anxiety, and the fear of dysfunction. We stop chasing what sex is supposed to look like and start asking what actually feels good. So, instead of trying to fit your desires into a mold, get curious. Discover what excites you. Share it with your partner. Ask for it. Real sexual confidence isn't about following a script or meeting a standard. It's about doing what's true for you. When we stop obsessing over intercourse, we open the door to a more relaxed, joyful, and authentic relationship with sex. It's not about reaching a goal. It's about enjoying the journey. And that's where true intimacy begins. 4. Sexy means what you want it to mean. Sexy means what you want it to mean. Many people struggle with their sex lives, not because of what happens in the bedroom, but because of how they perceive themselves. One of the biggest barriers to confidence and enjoyment is the pressure to conform to someone else's definition of sexy, masculine, feminine, or desirable. These definitions often stem from media portrayals, outdated societal norms, or the old stories we've internalized over the years. And the problem with these definitions? They frequently leave us feeling excluded. It's all too common to believe that real men act a certain way, real women look a certain way, and that great lovers behave like the characters we see in movies or porn. But if your version of sexy excludes who you truly are, your body, your personality, your preferences, it's not serving you. It's like setting the rules of a game in a way that guarantees you'll lose. So why not rewrite those rules to include yourself? Sexual confidence begins with ownership. You don't have to fit into someone else's mold to be sexy. You have the power to define what caring, sensuality, and desire mean to you. You can decide that bringing your partner a blanket, using lube without hesitation, or sharing a laugh during sex is erotic. It might not look like a glossy magazine ad, but it can feel profoundly intimate and satisfying. Trying to squeeze into narrow images of masculinity or femininity, images that shift with the trends, only leads to frustration. It turns sex into a performance rather than a genuine connection. By expanding your definitions of what it means to be sexy, you create space for your authentic self to show up. You don't have to abandon everything you've admired. Instead, make room for your reality alongside the fantasies. Remember, small, thoughtful gestures can be just as hot as bold moves. Knowing how your partner likes to be touched, bringing snacks to bed, or taking care to clean up after sex, these actions can be deeply erotic because they're rooted in attention and trust. At the end of the day, sex isn't about matching someone else's idea of what's hot. It's about creating meaning and pleasure with your partner. And that journey begins with believing that you belong in your own definition of sexy. If you're waiting for someone else to give you permission to feel good about yourself, You'll always be chasing that elusive feeling. So don't ask if you qualify. Decide that you do. Make your definition of sexy expansive enough to encompass everything you are. There's nothing stopping you, except the outdated rules you're still playing by. Let them go. They were never written for you anyway. Embrace your unique version of sexy, and watch how it transforms your experience of intimacy. 5. Sex can be enjoyable whatever stage of life you're in. Sex can be enjoyable. Whatever stage of life you're in. When do people reach their sexual peak? It's a question that often stirs anxiety, leading us to fret about whether our peak will come too early, too late, or if it will even align with our partners. The truth is, the entire concept of a sexual peak is more complicated and more flexible than we've been led to believe. If we define sexual peak solely in terms of physical performance, harder erections, quicker arousal, or more frequent desire, then yes, many men might peak in their late teens, while many women may find their peak around their mid-30s. But that's just one narrow definition. It overlooks everything that makes sex meaningful, pleasurable, and emotionally rich. Sexual peak could also refer to the stage of life when sex feels the most fulfilling. This might be when someone has the most confidence, the best communication skills, or the deepest connection with a partner. It could be the time when sex provides the most comfort during difficult moments, or when someone feels free to explore and express their true self. It might even be when they stop comparing themselves to cultural ideals and start enjoying their bodies just as they are. Think of it like sports. Sure, most professional athletes perform at their best in their 20s or early 30s when their bodies are at peak speed and strength. But ask athletes in their 40s, 50s, or 60s who still love the game, and they'll often tell you they enjoy it more now. They may not be as fast or strong, but they know the game better. They've refined their skills and play for the joy of it, not just for the win. That's a different kind of peak. The same principle applies to sex. Some people may have had more raw physical energy when they were younger, but with age often comes self-awareness, emotional depth, and the freedom to enjoy sex without the pressure of performance. Many find that they become better lovers later in life, not despite getting older, but because they've learned what truly matters to them. If you're still enjoying sex, on your own terms and in your own way, then you haven't passed your peak. If you're learning, exploring, or deepening your connection with a partner, your best experiences may still be ahead of you. So remember this. The most satisfying sex isn't about chasing a single high point on a timeline. It's about being fully present and finding meaning in whatever stage you're in. The peak isn't behind you or ahead of you. If you're still growing, the peak might never end. Embrace the journey and enjoy the richness of your sexual experiences at every stage of life. Final summary. Sexual intelligence is a game changer, replacing the pressure and expectations around sex with a refreshing dose of playfulness and self-awareness. Here's why this book truly matters. Normal is a myth. Your desires are valid. This book celebrates the diversity of human sexuality, reminding us that there is no single normal when it comes to what turns us on or fulfills us. Connection, acrobatics. It shifts the focus from sexual performance to genuine intimacy, emphasizing that true connection is far more important than any gymnastic feat in the bedroom. Pleasure isn't linear. Enjoy the detours. This book encourages us to embrace the winding, non-linear journey of sexual pleasure, finding joy in the unexpected twists and turns along the way. Your definition of sexy is the only one that matters. It empowers us to redefine sexy on our own terms, rather than chasing societal ideals that leave us feeling inadequate. Great sex isn't age-gated. Sexual intelligence reminds us that sexual fulfillment and exploration know no bounds when it comes to age, shattering the myth that our best days are behind us. Final thought. Sex isn't something you do, it's a way you be with someone. This profound insight reminds us that true intimacy is not just about the physical act, but about the way we show up, connect, and engage with our partners. Readers, let us know in the comments, should we explore the wisdom of Come As You Are, Mating in Captivity, or another transformative book on relationships and sexuality next? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more mind-opening insights on cultivating deeper, more fulfilling connections.